Alright, Lanta, so this morning we did get the announcement that the Burn the Witch characters are returning. They're returning in less than 24 hours time, and they're only here for a very short amount of time. As you can see here, the banner is literally available for 72 hours. Now, whenever we are leading up to an upcoming end of month banner, which has a lot of excitement leading up to it, as in this case, April end of month is usually a very exciting banner. In this case, most likely 1000 Year Blood War. We'll talk about what I think it will be in a couple days time before the announcement. But usually whenever people say we get bait banners, or people call certain banners a bait banner, you know, in that case, it's just a usual rerun and it's not specifically designed in mind to bait you per se. In this case though, this is by far one of those few examples that it is 100% a bait banner, because they purposely returning on the 23rd tomorrow, and it's only here for 3 days. So they're making sure that while this banner is available, you have no idea what end of month is going to be. The only way you can know what end of month is going to be while this banner is up is literally the last 10 minutes when the character's info gets put into the game and gets data mined 10 minutes before this banner does leave. For those that aren't aware, end of month is getting announced a day earlier on the 26th. So yeah, the second this banner leaves is the second the end of month banner gets announced. So with that, if you do decide to pull on this banner, you're not going to know what end of month is going to be. The banner itself is obviously a good one. It does feature every Burn the Witch character. Is this going to be a must summon? I would say no. I don't think it's a bad banner to pull on. Of course, the 5, newer Burn the Witch characters, Power Soul and also Halloween, are very strong characters. Most of the Power Soul characters are carrying this in my opinion. And if you play Guild Quest actively, you would know how important Macy and also Bruno are for their respective Guild Quest weeks. There isn't that many good or any alternatives for the most part. But given that this banner just returned 3 months ago, like it was here in January, that potentially means we're going to get this banner return on a, not so rare basis. Usually Burn the Witch only returns like once or twice a year. More so like in June and at the end of the year. Thus far, it's returned twice and we're already 4 months into the year. So likely if you do skip this banner right now, it wouldn't be too long until this banner does return. But my opinion back when this banner first released back in January, and likewise now, is still the same, is that if you're willing to take the risk, I would say skip it and wait for a potential new Burn the Witch banner. There's no guarantee that even happens. Maybe we're done with Burn the Witch, I don't know. But whenever we do get a new Burn the Witch banner, there's a good chance, because it's been quite a while and these characters have returned since multiple times now, is that these characters will just be the fillers. So the hope and the theory is that we potentially get a swimsuit Burn the Witch banner in sometime in June. And with that, I mean, they could just put these characters as fillers, and in that case, skipping this banner would be the best thing to do, because then you could pull for the new Burn the Witch characters while also potentially getting these characters. But again, that's not guaranteed to happen, right? We might not get a new Burn the Witch banner, and if we do, there's no guarantee that these characters will be fillers. So you are taking the risk there. In my case, I'm willing to take that risk. I don't mind waiting for a potential better banner, even if it does potentially never happen. But again, because they have returned quite often, again, it looks like now they potentially return every 3 or so months. If you skip it now, maybe you can try and summon for them after the anniversary. But if we do have a close look at the actual characters, let's look at what they do actually offer. So first up, we have Nini. Now, Nini, I think, is best demonstrated in Guild Quest content. She is a Limit Breaker character, and the idea is that you could potentially use her a lot in Limit Breaker, but I don't think her gameplay is that enjoyable. And I think many people share that opinion too, because the way she was designed, she's very similar to Ichibei, or more so Ichibei was similar to her. But the problem is she doesn't have the built-in recharge that makes Ichibei a lot more usable and more fun. Her damage output is basically very low, Frenzy +1, and I believe a 40% Berserker when the gauge isn't active. And that means when you're using your strong attacks, there's a good chance you're not even going to kill the opponents or the enemies. But the thing is, because she has gauge Rampage, when you do defeat enemies and when you do use your strong attacks, you are building up that gauge. And when the gauge is active, for the next 10 seconds, you have very high damage output. In this case, an additional Frenzy +1 and also 100% Berserker. So her damage output when the gauge is active is great. It's very high. And when it's active, she plays like a 20-23 character, right? But then again, that's only for 10 seconds. So when the gauge isn't active, she's playing like a 20-19 character. So you have that weird imbalance where she's going from like really, really good to then becoming very, very mid. And the thing that in my opinion hurts her the most is that when you do activate the gauge, because she doesn't have the skill that reduces her recharge when the gauge activates, it means that you have to kind of be wary of when you do activate the gauge, because let's say, for example, you activate your gauge effect and your SA3 has a 12-second cooldown, but then you can't use your SA3 again when you have your best damage output. I think she's still a good character in my opinion, but she definitely isn't that needed anymore. Her attribute and affiliation combo doesn't do her that many favors given that Yuha does exist. But one place that I have found to be very surprisingly really, really good is in Guild Quest, more specifically the Ranged Hollow Guild Quest, which is actually a very good good lead. I was able to use it in the Nightmare GQ and even the very hard guild quest and get a very high score, clearing in like 40 seconds remaining. If you are a Nini fan, you can definitely have a lot of fun with her. She's not bad by any means. She just has a big problem with her gameplay design, given that she's only really fun or good when the gauge is active. Then we have Noel, a hot range sword killer. And in my opinion, I would say Noel is kind of mediocre. With Nini, even though she has a problem, at least she has those brief moments where her damage output is actually really, really high. And in Guild Quest, she has stood out to be one of the better characters for her respective week. In Noel's case, she plays like 7th anniversary Ichigo, which isn't bad, but then you consider that there's like 2 years apart from these characters. She has Frenzy +1, a 40% Berserker. When you inflict a stat element, she gets an 80% SP boost. And then you also have Weakening and Drain, which allows her to stay at full stamina, allows her to do more damage. And she has 2 specific skills, which does let her do more damage to those drained and weakened enemies. It's just that her SA1 is mediocre. It's a pushback attack, not really the greatest. And since I've actually bought her, I've honestly never used her. She doesn't stand out anywhere. She's not a bad character, she's just good, if that kind of makes sense. She potentially has a play in the ranged Super Guild Quest, but the thing is we are guaranteed to get a ranged Super Guild Quest for this upcoming End of Month banner that will probably put this Noel to shame. The general premise for these two Halloween Burn the Witch characters that they weren't as good as they should have been given their Burn the Witch status, and you can also see that with their killer effects given that they're only ever given 1 killer effect. I think Nini has some redeeming factors about it, but Noel in my opinion is quite mediocre for a Burn the Witch character. Lucky for us though, we can't say the same thing for the other characters, the Parasol Burn the Witch characters, because these honestly do stand on their own 2 feet. In this case, 4 own feet, because we have Bakugou and also Asushi. Now, Bakugou and Asushi are going to be your link swap farmers for the banner. By using them, you're guaranteed 5 additional heart link swap potions and also 5 additional heart super link swap potions. Because you mainly want to use Bakugou to farm super link swap potions, he is designed for that game mode, as he was given Frenzy +1, a 40% Berserker. When you inflict the stat element, you get an 80% SP boost, and with that in mind, he also does have an increased chance to inflict stat elements, making him get through the Iron Skin a lot easier. He has good survivability given that he does have Weakening and also Drain. I know he's still a lot of people's go-to farmer. While he won't be the fastest or as fast as someone like Senjumaru, he can still clear relatively fast, and for the most part is a very safe character given that he has really good survivability thanks to his increased chance to inflict Drain. He was also given 2 killers, Quincy and Human, so more often than not, he has killer in IT, and then you can potentially also use him in that particular guild quest, the ranged Quincy or Human guild quest. He's not the greatest character in Guild Quest, I will be honest, but he is a decent option if you have no other better character to use. For the most part though, he's going to be just your go-to farmer, farming link swap potions, droplets, and also super link swap potions for the heart attribute. Macy for the most part is still a very powerful character, being a speed, no affiliation, and also squad 0 killer. Her gameplay is still very fun, and she still has a very high damage output thanks to a Frenzy +2, 80% SP boost, and because she can apply both Weakening and also Paralysis, when you do inflict a status element, you also do 80% more damage to those status inflicted enemies from her 2 particular skills, 40% more damage to weakened enemies and 40% more damage to paralyzed enemies. This allows you to hit very, very hard, especially when you just activate a status element, and that's why in Guild Quest, for example, she's one of the best characters for the ranged no affiliation and also Squad 0 Guild Quest. In the Squad 0 Guild Quest in particular, like right now, the only good leads. She also comes with weakened defense, and when you do decide to use your Soul Bomb, not only are you inflicting stat elements guaranteed, in which you're then doing like 120% more damage and reapplying the SP boost, right? You're also allowing your team to do more damage, 30% to be exact, from that weakened defense skill. And then the cherry on the top, if you take it into Limit Breaker Quest, you do reduce the cooldown of your strong attacks by 20%, and it is a team party buff to any speed character. So whenever you can bring a speed character, having Macy in your team just makes everyone better, because then you're guaranteed to get your strong attacks recovered when you're next available. She has a great strong attack kit, mainly her SA2 and SA3, makes her a very enjoyable character in basically any game mode. Guild Quest, Epic Raids, Inheritance Challenges, Point Events, and of course even in Guild Quest. By far one of the best characters to have from this banner, and if you are summoning, I would assume it's for Macy. She's a very fun character and also visually looks great, and it's a Macy. It's a new character, maybe you never played with her. She does definitely still have that charm, at least in my opinion. Likewise, we can say the same thing about Bruno. In this case, a heart no affiliation with the Hollow and also a Sparta killer. A character that is also really good in a lot of different game modes. I've used him plenty of times in Limit Breaker. You can use him in Epic Raids. He can be just your go-to hard character, but of course also in Guild Quest in particular, he's very good there given the lack of options, more so for the melee Sparta Guild Quest. Right now he's the best lead for that Guild Quest phase, and that's because of his damage damage output, frenzy +2, a 40% berserker, and then when you do activate the gauge effects, because he is a gauge character, you get 100% more berserker and also a 50% SP boost. He's a very simple character, right? Overall very solid, but then when the gauge activates, he gets even better. Unlike Nini, he doesn't have that problem with his damage output being low when the gauge isn't active, so overall makes him a lot more fun of a character, and you can even use him inside Arena if you really want to. And that's basically it for the main featured characters. They're the only 5 I think is actually really worth talking about. As for the others, just to quickly go through them, Noel is mainly going to be a super Link farmer. If you use her when she has killer, she's honestly quite a decently good character. In this case, when you're going against power, hollow, and also no affiliation enemies, and with that you are getting +5 Linkster potions and also +5 super Linkster potions. Likewise with Nini, she's good when you're going against mind Soripa and also no affiliation enemies, and she is also there to farm super Linkster potions and also normal Linkster potions, this time for the mind attribute. They're still okay characters, but their strong attack hits and damage output don't really offer the best gameplay, and they're relatively slow characters compared to the other farming characters that we do have access to now in 2024. Bruno is okay. Damage output is super low, only frenzy +1 and a 60% berserker. Maybe it's 40%, I don't really know because I don't use him anymore. Cool visuals, but he's more so an arena character because in arena he gets frenzy +2. And he also has last ditch survival, so he's somewhat of a offensive SP character that can slow down the opponents if you care about arena. If you do, you can actually have quite a bit of fun with him in there. And then the Technique Nini and also Mind Noel, the first ever Burn the Witch characters, they're quite old. Their damage output is very low. No redeeming factors. You can't really use them anywhere. They are potentially going to receive a resurrection later this year. Not guaranteed to happen. But as of right now, they're definitely very lackluster, more so just collect the items. Of course, the banner step up is a normal banner, so step 1, 6, 11, 16, and 21 are discounted at 150 orbs, and then step 2, 7, 12, 17, and 22 are discounted at 200 orbs, with the 5th step guaranteeing you a Burn the Witch character, because these are the only featured characters. As already stated, it's definitely not a bad banner to pull on. It is a Burn the Witch banner overall, so you are guaranteed value. Like, even some of the bad Burn the Witch characters are still rare characters to begin with. If you're missing everyone in this banner, you're a new account, I would say at least do 5 steps. Why not? If you're missing the entire banner, there's definitely some value to be had here. Like, if you get any of the top 5 characters, the Halloween or Parasol characters, then it would be worth it, right? While I have my problems with this Noel and also Nini, like, they're still good characters to have. More so Nini, in my opinion. But any of the Parasol characters, they've aged really well, and they're still really worth going for. More so Macy and Bruno. If you can get Macy and Bruno, then it's an absolute W, right? Other than that, though, I think you can easily skip this banner because it'll probably come back in like 3 months' time like it did just now. Last time it was here, it was in January. Good chance it maybe returns in like July, August. But again, the hope is maybe we can get a new Burn the Witch banner this year, and then, you know, these characters can become the fillers. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's why my old account are skipping this banner. Even though one of my accounts has no one from here, my plan is just to play it safe, try and play it smart, and wait for them to come back in a better banner with new characters. It's a risk I'm willing to take, and even though it means that I don't have a good lead for the Range Squad 0 and also Melee Espada GQ because Bruno and also Macy are almost mandatory for those quests, I'll just wait. I don't mind waiting for better replacements or new replacements because they're eventually going to get replaced, even if it does take quite some time. Either way though, understand this is definitely a bait banner, so maybe be careful summoning on this. I would love to say wait to see what end of month is, but again, this banner literally leaves right before end of month. If anything, if you're in a Discord, if you're awake before this banner does leave, again, 10 minutes before this banner leaves, we will find out what end of month is through data mines, because people will data mine it before the banner announcement does happen. Is anyone actually going to do that? I don't know, but it's something I'm just mentioning, right? Maybe you can do that if you really, really want to. I'd say end of month is guaranteed to be 1000-year Blood War. Again, we'll talk about it in a couple of days' time. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below if you are pulling. If you are, good luck, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace.